Hello everybody, today I'm going to show you how to make this awesome PVC rod holder or rocket launcher, whichever you want to call it, for the Hobie Pro Angler. I made this a few years ago, and the one thing you'll notice is that I have it set back a little bit so that way I can fit, for two reasons. One, I can fit this cooler here in front of the rods. And the reason I have it in front of the rods is that, quite honestly, I don't like the rods up against the back of my chair where I'm leaning back and potentially hitting them with my head. But also, my arms are pretty long, so when I reach back to take a rod in or out of the rod holder, it's more comfortable for it to be back here. It's not really comfortable for me to be reaching right over my shoulder. I reach back. This is a perfect spot for me anyway. So spray painted black, very simple. I'm going to show you all the parts you need and what the measurements are. Over here I have an extra spot where you can add a rod holder for trolling off to the side, and on the other side I added a spot to mount the net. And that really worked out for me pretty well. In fact, I didn't even screw this one down. It moves a little bit, which is good because sometimes I want it in a different position. Anyhow, the cooler seemed to fit perfectly for this kayak. It's an Igloo marine cooler. I think it's 48 quart. I'll double check and I'll post it on the video before it's uploaded and show you where you can get this. But this cooler is great. It's a perfect size, and it seemed to be made for the pro angler. It just fits in perfectly. Now that I have the rod holders out of the kayak, I want to show you what's really going on here. So let me help you with the measurements. The piece that goes into the rod holder inside the kayak, I cut at 11 inches long. These pieces here are only necessary if you want to add an accessory. So, for example, I use this for the net holder. Okay. On the other side, I'm adding a part here where you can put a rod in to troll off to the side. You don't need this. If you would like to eliminate these, you just extend this piece up to here, and then you don't need these additional pieces. Two 45-degree angles here with just a small piece of PVC in the center to join the two. These are 2.5 inches each. Then you have a 6-inch piece of PVC, a 45-degree angle bend. You've got 4.5 inches on each side here, and then in between these four cross sections, which are essentially the rod holders, you have a 3-inch piece of PVC in between here. Okay, so you have 11, 2.5, 6, 4.5, 3, 3, 3, 4.5, 6, and 2.5 again, and then 11 down the side. The other key part that I want you to take note of is that I am not gluing any of these. These are all joined with stainless steel screws that I've painted over. Why am I using stainless steel screws instead of glue, PVC glue? Because in the event that I want to make changes to this, I don't have to scrap the whole thing. If I decide I want to change up some of these pieces in the back, I can just unscrew them and swap it out. If I glued it, I'll have to cut it. And then I've got a problem because if I splice a piece in between, now the geometry doesn't work. So I didn't glue. I prefer to use stainless screws. That's what I'm doing here. And but again, this is totally customizable. You can do whatever you want. The paint I used was this Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover paint and primer. It says also bonds to plastic. So that's why I used it. The reality is that this thing will scratch up a little bit and then you have to touch it up. So long term I'm going to try to find something else, but this this seemed to work and cover pretty easily. I also recommend that you loose fit everything and then get this into your kayak, and then once you like the way it sits in your kayak, then you start adding the screws or gluing, whichever you prefer. Before you paint, obviously mark the PVC to make sure that when you pull it back out of the kayak, it doesn't move on you and then you've glued it or screwed it back in the wrong spot. It's important to take your time and measure a couple of times and make sure that it fits properly before either screwing these parts together or gluing them. I hope this video helped you and you make these rod holders for yourselves. If you have any questions, just post them below. Please subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing, and tight lines, everybody.